So hello everyone, welcome back to Dynamic Racing Leagues here on YouTube, where we are bringing you live coverage of round 3 of the DRL GT Championship here at the Nürburgring on the GP circuit. It's been a while since I has been in booth, so I is gonna do best job I is can. Hope that's of some appreciation to someone out there. So, of course, with the GT Championship, things are looking very spicy indeed. We've got plenty of entries going through. I'm just gonna quickly go up on GT Planet. We've seen some times being set already, of course. Currently watching Tetsu Kobura of Checker Flag Motorsport. They've certainly been a dominating force so far throughout the season. Been pretty much always at the sharp end of the field, so should be one to watch out for. Of course, we also have Y-Bear for Scuderia Nuke Shoddy, so another one perhaps to look out for. Although the Ferrari has been a little bit of a pain in terms of setup as of recent, I can confirm, but we shall see what happens. As purple again goes Tetsu in that sector. King of Torque also in a Mercedes, so making the change after leaving Dynamic Esports to switch teams, of course, and I believe is part of the Grip Runners Motorsports program. I'm gonna quickly double check that. Indeed, yep, Grip Runners Motorsport Mercedes. So they're definitely going to be looking quite sharp. Someone who hasn't changed from their BMW ways is Dynamic Carbon, of course, series organizer. Not the start of the season he would have been hoping for, but hoping to gain a big ground on a circuit that he should be very familiar with. It is very technical circuit, but also one that is very familiar to DRL fans. He just comes across the line to start a lap. We have NS Rhino, who's currently in the pits for the Foxcatcher Racing team. Of course, that very solid white design. Very simple but very striking at the same time. Good to see. As I'm about to sneeze, so muting my mic, hold up. And we are, well, I am back anyway, of course. Stream didn't go anywhere. Who else do we have? We've got Felix for Audi Sport Team RL. I think there's been some kind of a livery glitch, considering it's not actually showing up. It's showing up as stock. Nevertheless, Felix is here. Of course, was around in DRL for quite a while, and of course still competing to this day. Had a little bit of a time off, but is back in his superior mid-engine layout, as I believe this is qualifying about to get underway here. And straight out the gate we're already seeing Tetsu making their way out. Of course, tyre and fuel are set to 1 times each, DRL keeping it as realistic as possible with those settings. Because making their way around the circuit, there is Y-Bear, of course, King of Torque. Houdini also here as well, so Houdini's actually substituting in for Nilsman, winner from race 1, so unfortunately he couldn't be here, but of course we do have substitute. We have the technology. So good to see that Houdini finally manages to get some of the spotlight. I believe he's running a stock setup in that Ferrari as well. So interesting choice. You see King of Torque making his way around. Trying to follow Dynamic Carbon a bit, weaving to get the tyres warmed up. And Rhino sliding about a little bit at this stage. Just again trying to warm up the tyres. So Tetsu Kobura, who is being the only person this season to take a pole position, will be setting off, leading the pack as they making their way around the final corner, and we're going to go on board to take you through a lap of the Nürburgring GP circuit. So of course, downhill braking zone into turn 1. It's a very sharp corner where the elevation change on the apex can really unsettle cars, especially mid-engine ones. And then the Mercedes arena, where also stability is key and just finding a rhythm. Then on exit, cars do tend to run a fair bit wide through the exit of turn 4, but Tetsu staying well within those limits. And this sort of combination of 5 and 6 as they make their way down the hill. Very narrow but also very banked, so you can carry a lot more speed than you would initially think. And then heading down towards the hairpin at the bottom of the circuit, again, very banked corner. Just a case of being patient on the throttle and then seeing your exit and powering out. The Schumacher S, an uphill challenge. The professionals here, as Tetsu is demonstrating, can go flat out through there quite easy. And coming up to 2 right-angled corners, again slight banking in play. Then on the run down this back straight with a slight kink running through, and then heading up to the braking zone for the chicane towards the end of the lap. Not really messing around with any of the curbs at all there was Tetsu, just keeping it clean, perhaps just setting a banker lap, and of course making their way around the final corner, trying to get as close to the wall on the inside as you can. And it's a 156.370 for the American. Oh dear, dying. So we're going to see what other times are going to be set. Wide Bear is about to come across the line. It's not going to be faster. It's a 159.0. Houdini comes across the line. It's a 157.9. So they go second for now. Dynamic is coming across. King of Torque actually in the slipstream. They might be on for a good one. It's provisional pole for Carbon, and then even faster goes King of Torque. That's a 155.1 by King of Torque. So a very impressive lap. No doubt team manager GRM Bandit will be happy with that one. Of course, we are looking for around 55s, quite low, and possibly even high 54s in terms of qualifying pace. We'll have to see how that pans out. NS Rhino about to come across the line. It's going to be 2 minutes 3.7, so a fair bit of time to gain. We'll be trying to stay optimistic, just trying to get settled in for their next lap, as they miss the braking zone and actually understeer off into the wall and pick up damage, so they're gonna have to head to the pits and get that fixed. There we go. It's been ages since I've used this keyboard, so I'm trying to get back into it. Anyway, Tetsu, they're about to come across the line. It's going to be an improvement. It puts them ahead of Carbon. Can't get them close enough to King though. And Houdini's actually caught up to the back of Wybear, but has to back out of their lap for fear of catching him. Wybear about to come across the line. What's it going to be? It's not an improvement on that occasion. And Houdini, of course, had to back out of their lap. Dynamic Carbon, they're coming across the line. It's not an improvement for them. And no improvement for King of Torque either. So as usual, it is a 15-minute qualifying session, followed by an hour-long race. So should be an action-packed one. We'll have to see. At the moment, qualifying seems to be a very dominant display by a driver who has been known to have a very dominant reputation in DRL for quite some time. Not actually sure what happened in round 2 because I wasn't around. It was broadcasted on Twitch, I believe, by co-commentator Brandon Haig, who isn't here today due to some kind of reasons. So of course, just me here at the moment, still finding my groove. Rhino into the pits, going for a fresh set of tyres. And Tetsu is about to come across the line. Now, are they looking to improve? No. Not on that occasion. Not by 1.1 seconds actually, so Tetsu was a fair bit of time to find. As Ayrton Spanner is actually joining us on track. Of course, the Welshman in their Audi R8, one of two that is, or was here today at least, because Felix was in a practice session earlier. I believe he's not racing due to the Formula E being on, or something along those lines, which is a shame. But Ayrton Spanner substituting in for Sailor, of course, those two, both members of Team Black Diamond. I have to say, that is a very nice livery that they have there as well, with the sort of teal accents, or turquoise accents. It's quite nice, although they have just been checked and their ballast was incorrect. Of course, they'll be using the same ballast that Sailor had. Regarding such ballast, it is currently Nils's car, or in this particular race it's Houdini, with 112%. Sailor's running 111%, so that will transfer to Ayrton Spanner. Carbon is running 105%, and Tetsu is running 103%. So all of those in the rough range of 1,360 kilos. And still, the gap in qualifying, at least at the moment, is still very, very large. It would seem that King actually did improve on one of their laps. The gap very close to being an entire second, and they're about to come across the line again. Could this be the first 54? It is. It's a 54.877, and that firmly cements them on pole position. Still yet to see any kind of response from the likes of Tetsu, who is in exact same machinery, different team running it, of course. So different engineers, perhaps they're just struggling to find a bit of pace with the car at the moment. Dynamic Carbon currently green in Sector 2, I want to say. Yep, Sector 2. So they're making their way up. Are they still green by Sector 3? Yes, 4/10 up. So this might actually be enough to put them ahead of Tetsu, provided that they keep it together through the last little section. We're on board with them. Car 24, or H2 when you're looking at it from this angle. Making their way through. Just the last corner to go. It looks like a smooth run for the Irishman. Not going to be challenging their teammate, but certainly up there. And indeed, actually, they do gain a lot of time through that last sector and are only 5/10 away from King's time. I say only 5/10. Still a massive gap. In fact, Tetsu manages to get even closer, so Tetsu improves on their time as we sort of expected. So that was a 154.3, I want to say, or 154.4, or 154.2 rather. King of Torque now going into the pits, as is Felix, who is actually on track, or at least chilling out in the pit lane at the moment. So some people just getting their new tyres ready, as we are approaching the final 2 minutes of qualifying, 2.5 to go at this stage. Ayrton Spanner about to leave the pit lane. I'm not actually sure if they have set a time. It's not listed as such, so Ayrton Spanner still yet to set a time. Sailor, who is in the chat. And the fresh rubber should be showing a fair bit of pace. There you see King of Torque. Current pole setter by 4/10. Just letting him go. As that is a Ferrari, I believe that is Houdini, who was going a little bit on the grass. They're currently positioned 4th. Still 1.5 seconds off the pace. Gotta think, is that stock setup benefiting them? Of course, the Ferrari has been known in the past to have not the best tyre wear. There has been an update to the physics which seems to have changed the handling on quite a lot of cars, to be fair. So that happened, I believe, between race 2 and 3 of this season. You want to know the top 3 and the fastest lap of the last race that we had out, which unfortunately I wasn't able to broadcast. It was at Interlagos. It was Tetsuo Kubura taking the pole and win, lights to flag, or so it would seem on paper, with Carbon actually finishing 2nd and Sailor 3rd. So good result for Tetsu there, and we'll be trying to capitalize further as we're approaching the 15-minute marker. As I get the warning ready. So these final guys just timing their laps, so they cross the line just at the right moment. And I believe that is qualifying to an end. Everyone on their last laps. King of Torque still up there. Carbon has a penalty, so that's them out of qualifying. Tetsu actually did manage to close up the gap, only a 10th separating them from King. We're going to go on board with the checkered flag motorsport car as they make their way out of the final corner. It's not going to be an improvement. So it is going to more than likely be King of Torque on pole. They're still going round on a lap. quickly checking in on Ed and Spencer actually. See how they're doing. They're about to come across a marker. It didn't actually come up with anything, so that's a bit odd. Some cars coming across the line then. That was Rhino coming across. And Ed and Spencer are actually still yet to set a time. They're coming around the final corner. This will be their one and only lap. And we aren't actually getting any sector markers. It's actually going to be quite a competitive one. 56? No, 55. So that places them fourth, I believe, because Carbon has returned to the pits. As I'm still just trying to scan through. There's King of Torque, who has come across the line, who will be on pole position for the start of this race. So congratulations to King of Torque on pole position. Of course, someone who has actually been on the channel quite often in interviews and such, so certainly a popular character within the series. And in the end, there was a 4/10 gap between them and Tetsuko Bura, so it was a 154.5 by King of Torque, sealing the deal, which was an absolutely immense lap from the Brit. So Tetsu will be lining up alongside, with Ed and Spencer managing to get fourth, I believe, because of Carbon being in the pits. Here's the live timing at the end of qualifying. So Felix isn't actually registered with a lap time, so they'll be starting at the back of the grid if they are starting at all. Yes, indeed, Carbon will slot into third with Ed and Spencer fourth. Houdini could only manage fifth, however, of course, you got to factor in ballast and such. Bear, interestingly enough, couldn't match the pace of Houdini. They qualified in sixth. Seventh will be NS Rhino for Foxcatcher Racing, and Felix, who hasn't set a time, if they even make it to the grid, will be starting in eighth. And we're getting confirmation that the car of Felix is indeed going to be starting this race, so that is fantastic news. King of Torque already celebrating with some burnouts. So I might be mistaken on this. I believe there's actually Grip Runners Motorsports' first ever pole position in Gran Turismo Sport, at least in a DRL league. I might be mistaken regarding other leagues and such, but good on them for developing a car that is quick in qualifying. Let's hope it's not a Haas situation where it's quick in qualifying and falls away in the race, but knowing King of Torque, his pace should be very solid indeed. This episode of DRL was not brought to you by Cream Soda, but if it was, then I'd highly recommend that as a beverage. So we've got about 5 minutes until the start of this one. Very good time to actually just go over the championship standings. So in the Drivers' Championship, it is Nils, who isn't here, currently leading with 32 points. No doubt they will be overtaken by the end of today, more than likely by the likes of Tetsu, who is on 30 points, currently second, joint second actually, with both Sailor and Dynamic Carbon, all three of those on 30 points apiece, so extremely close stuff from second through fourth. In fifth, it's Wyber on 22 points. Sixth is John Wondering, and seventh is Joseph Burns, who I might be mistaken, I believe is one of the Lamborghinis. Yes, of LK Racing, of course. Neither of those here today, which is unfortunate to see. And Felix is currently in 8th on 6 points, and Rhino is currently 9th on 3 points. Regarding the team championship, Scuderia Nuke Shoddy, big up, on 54 points total. They lead the team's championship standings by a healthy 24 points over Team Black Diamond Esports, who are on 30 points, and also Dynamic Esports and Checo Flag Motorsports also again matching the points of second, so they're all essentially tied for second, all on 30 points apiece, with Foxcatcher Racing down in 5th with 15 points, LK Racing only managing 8 points at this stage of the season, and Audi Sport Team RL with Felix as their driver, only a one-car team that currently on 6 points. Just going over some of the messages in chat. Yes, I am indeed reading the chat. Yeah, okay, I drink too loud. Whatevs, fam. King of Talk is stripped of pole position. Ah, okay. So that was more than likely due to incorrect BOP, which is a shame that the team got that wrong. So that would put Tetsu Kobura on pole position, I believe. Yes, it would. The only other runner to do a 54.9. And Spanner has to up their power by 1. I'm not sure whether a lot of this has to do with the fact that Polyphony released a new BOP change, and whether Dynamic Racing Leagues is actually incorporating that or not. Last time I checked, I believe we were still running the pre-update BOP. I shall quickly check on that. Yep, we are still running pre-update BOP, at least with the Ferrari, which I've just compared. That's the car I'm most familiar with in terms of that. So, apparently this incorrect BOP has led to that to happen. I'm just checking. Right, so that is going to put King actually at the back of the grid. So that is definitely not what Grit Rose Motorsport were needing. But that is indeed what happened. A slight power increase, which when you think about it, if it was as slight as they're saying, it more than likely would have still resulted in King getting pole, but that discrepancy will have to start them from the back of the grid. Of course, the rules are rules. It isn't like high school where rules are made to be broken. This is real life. Can't be breaking no rules in real life. Oh, and Spanner running into the wall. Fantastic stuff. That's the second time we've managed to change camera perfectly. Earlier with the intro shots, it was, I believe it was Carbon on the last corner just spinning out to the inside wall, something along those lines. Great banter, it really is. And Spanner just still just parking their car into the wall. That Marshal's gonna have arm ache from just waving yellow flags all day. We're hearing that is only 1% power over because King apparently looked at the a screenshot they took of the GT Planet thread rather than an update. I mean, the one benefit now is that you know for the future, but that is absolutely gutting to have that taken away from the Grip Runners Motorsport team and from King as well. But it's certainly proven that he does have pace in the car, considering it is just 1%. And it'll be interesting to see how he manages to work his way up through the field from there. I believe we should be getting the race underway shortly. We currently had a 2-minute delay while I have been rambling and such. It's obviously not due to me rambling. It's been due to carbon being carbon. Need I say more? And that's a very fair point, actually, King in chat. It will hopefully be a very good show watching you carve up the competition, assuming you don't choke, of course. Who knows? Who knows? Sailor in chat, wishing all our competitors good luck. I have to say the same. It's going to be an 8-car grid. It's currently 8:28, and we should have started 3 minutes ago. However, it looks like the delays are finally coming to an end, and we are going to be getting things started shortly. Rhino in chat saying he's not starting last. Indeed. In fact, you're not even on the last row of the grid, I believe, because Felix hasn't set a time and King has been disqualified. So you're actually on the second to last row of the grid, which is something. Maybe you'll be able to mix it up in this race. We'll have to see. In a bit more of a favourable position than some other occasions. Dynamic Carbon, there he is in his majestic peasant glory. Jokes aside, he has started the race and should be, I believe, on the first row of the grid now, because Tetsu has the pole position due to King being disqualified. So, we're about to get racing here, underway at the Nürburgring on the GP circuit. Here is your grid. Indeed, it is car 54, who is starting on pole position. Tetsu Kobura with Carbon lining up alongside for the rolling start. And Spanner in third, Houdini in fourth. Houdini Myers, that is. I've said it right. Y-Bear 5th, Rhino 6th, Felix 7th, and King of Torque down in 8th. So, not too long to go now as the cars are starting to line up. It's green, 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 and the cars are off. Tetsu immediately darts to the inside wall, going very defensive. I believe we saw that move in Gran Turismo World Tour event. So he's trying the same thing as Carbon. Is going to try and go around the outside, is he? That might put him under a bit of pressure from Ant Spanner. No, not on this occasion. A bit further back, Rhino's actually managing to challenge Y-Bear a little bit. As King has already gotten up ahead of Felix, and King is actually scything his way through the field already. He's all the way up to 6th. So King of Torque already with an outstanding driving. It looks like Felix is going to go down the inside of the... No, not on that occasion. Carbon's still having to be a bit defensive. They make their run down to the hairpin. Again, just watching Felix a little bit. They're certainly looking very racy at the moment as Rhino understeers, and they're in the gravel. That's not going to help, and indeed they have dropped down to 8th. Meanwhile, King of Torque trying to get past Y-Bear. That was a very, very risky place to try anything. Going into the Schumacher S. King outbreaks them down the inside and gets the move to stick. We're going to an onboard of that particular move, so we're going to quickly see King of Torque just dive it down the inside. Textbook overtake. So they're making their way up towards the chicane. Houdini gets it wrong, and that allows King to get another place. So there it is again, just a slight mistake as the Ferrari gets tripped up over the curbs. Making the way down towards turn 1. Again, it is still Tetsu who is leading, seeming to be backing up Carbon a little bit into Ayrton Spencer's range, who actually gets on the grass and oversteers in that R8. That's not going to be helping their tyres at all, especially so early on in the race. And they are running a bit wide as well, but still managing to stay in touch. Carbon starting to lose a bit of touch with Tetsu. Slipstream range has been broken. That Mercedes up ahead seeming to be absolutely on fire. There you see in the background King of Torque up to 4th, still charging his way through the pack. Carbon will be trying to chase. Meanwhile, I believe we've had an off. It was Rhino. So he's just going through here, just got on the grass carrying too much speed and into the gravel. Really hasn't worked out for him. Tetsu continuing to extend the gap a bit further back. Y-Bear all over the back of their teammate Houdini. Actually, this is a scrap and a half at the moment. Felix also trying to get involved, so actually Houdini managed to no, Houdini was ahead already, but Y-Bear is still trying to find his way past him. Felix going down the inside, but they get taken off. We're gonna have to see that one in a replay. Extremely unfortunate stuff. We're gonna have to see an onboard of this. So a little bit of a lockup from Houdini, and then just as the track seemed to go away from him, big contact, and that sent him off. It was a risky move to make, that's for certain. Meanwhile, King of Torque trying to find his way around Ayrton Spencer. These two, as of recent history in DRL, have certainly been ones to watch. Of course, Ayrton Spencer certainly impressed us when he first debuted. I believe it was midway through season 2 of DTM. So what can he do against the very well established King of Torque? He runs a little bit wide. It's allowing King to close up. And he's all over the back of him. Will he try the outbraking trick he did to Y-Bear? No, he can't. So they're still just forced to chase at the moment. There's a straight coming up. There's gravel being kicked up by that Audi R8. So that means that they're going to lose a bit of momentum. And indeed, Dynamic Carbon's actually coming under a bit of pressure. And that BMW Spanner's going round the outside into the chicane. There's a smidge of contact. They see Felix causing yellow flags actually by remaining there, parked up after that collision. So overtaking the chicane. Oh, and that was Spanner just clipping the wall. That was absolutely extremely unfortunate. We're going to have to see this again from Spanner's perspective, just taking too much of the curb on the inside and absolutely messing it up. He's going to be kicking himself after that one. Spanner into the pit lane. Felix has unfortunately retired from the race, understandable, and Spanner has turned into a ghost. Oh, no, there he is. And he's going to be... Oh, no, he's out of the pits already. Alright. Rejoins in 6th. And now, actually... what was this? Hold on. I'm gonna quickly see if I can... No, my apologies. But King has already managed to work his way up into 2nd. So he did manage to get past his former teammate Carbon and is now on the hunt for Tetsu Kobura. That must have happened while we was looking at the replay of what happened to Ayrton Spanner. I'm going to assume it happened in the straight of leading up to turn 1, but indeed F's in the chat from team manager, or assume team manager of Team Black Diamond, Sailor in the chat. And now it's 2 Mercedes, currently 1 and 2. So the car that wasn't in DTM Season 2 was replaced with the Aston Martin, if you recall. It is doing a very solid job at the moment. And if anyone can close up the gap to Tetsu, you gotta think King of Torque might just be the person to do it. Of course, they are the DTM Season 2 champion. Tetsu Kobura is not. But, of course, this is an entirely different championship. We shall see. And of course, I have known Tetsu for quite a while. He is certainly a driver with a very high caliber to him. Meanwhile, Wybear is coming into the pits. Does he have damage? He does indeed. Oh, so... did he pit twice? That was very confusing as to what happened there. I do apologize. No idea what's going on with that. Closest battle on track at the moment is still King of Torque closing up to Tetsu Kobura. King's last lap a 155.0. Tetsu's last lap a 155.8. So 8 tenths in the last lap alone taken out by King of Torque. And indeed the gap continuing to close down. That's some interesting clarification then, Sailor. You are neither of you team managers, so there must be a higher up somewhere. Be sure to get his autograph for me on my microphone. That'd be much appreciated. Continuing on with the action, King of Torque 1.2 seconds back. Already gapping their former teammate Dynamic Carbon, who just set their own personal best lap of the race. It was a 155.8. A bit further back we have Houdini Myers, who is currently the highest placed of the Scuderia Nuke Shoddy Ferraris, car 23. So good job by them at the moment, as it seemed that there was a little bit of overtaking or something going off a bit further down, as there was this very slidey and Spanner. I'm not sure what happened there. For some reason the graphic did seem to just switch up momentarily. Rhino is into the pits. What on earth has happened to Rhino? So they must have just picked up damage further around the lap, and they're just going into the pits in order to get that repaired. So really unfortunate stuff for NS Rhino. The gap continuing to come down. There you see it. Well within slipstream range now is King of Torque. We're going for a rear wing cam on the Checker Flag Motorsports car. Look at how close the chasing Mercedes is getting. They're making the way up towards the straight again. Again, gonna be well within the slipstream range now, on board with King of Torque, car 98. Won't be close enough to make a move on this occasion, looking to the outside, while Tetsu has to brake early in order to defend. Just look how much he's managed to close up. I did mention how the pace was there, and indeed he is looking down the inside line.com and gets the move done in fantastic style. So King of Torque righting a wrong in some respects, now back up into first place. It looked like Tetsu might have been trying to line up something, but couldn't quite get it done. Still going to be within the slipstream range, and Tetsu is certainly a driver who is no pushover. King braking very, very late indeed, just trying to maximize the gap. Still a Mercedes 1-2 then. Carbon just hanging back at the moment, 2.4 seconds behind Tetsu. So if these two start scrapping, then it's certainly possible that Carbon could get into the mix with this. And this could be a crucial thing, actually, as Tetsu has just dropped out of the slipstream range, or has just about gained it all back again. What on earth happened to King on that occasion? I'm gonna quickly just see. Was it just getting a curb wrong, or no, just not taking any curb and just generally taking a slower line, rather than Tetsu, who's willing to take a bit more of the curb. And has closed up because of it, so it's still game on for the top position. Again, that Mercedes of King of Torque just looks so planted through the corners. Of course, you do have to think, I believe Tetsu is running some ballast here, because they are, and King isn't, so that might be hindering Tetsu a fair bit. But look at this, all over the rear bumper of King of Torque, flashing the lights as well, just putting the pressure on. It might be a send, no, thinks way better offer, and in fact King brakes very, very late. Tetsu looking to try something around the inside, can't quite find the space at the moment, and this is certainly allowing Carbon to catch up. There they are. So Carbon really starting to come into the mix. I did mention how if they did start scrapping, this would happen. As they make their way up towards the straight, you gotta think, oh, that was a massive kick of oversteer or something with King of Torque. Maybe that was just a jolt to keep them out of the slipstream. It was certainly odd. But they still managed to retain the gap, is the interesting thing. And Carbon, look at this, Carbon is nearly in the slipstream range of Tetsu. Tetsu closing up again. About a quarter of the race gone here. Things still extremely hot at the top of proceedings. King runs a little bit wide, that might compromise their line here, and that's going to allow Tetsu to get a better run and pull up just about alongside, will they? No, not quite. King goes defensive a little bit. Just trying to do the best to stick with them. Perhaps save a little bit of fuel as well if they can. But I really do think that Tetsu is pushing the absolute limits of that car in order to just stay with King. And Carbon is tantalizingly close to getting into the slipstream range as well. Getting contrasting lines between the two Mercedes drivers. Always interesting to see how the different styles pan out. This looks like it might be a bit more of a run. I don't quite think they're close enough on this occasion. Indeed, Tetsu has to brake a bit early. Again, they can see also they are willing to take a lot more curve than King of Torque. They've closed up within 3/10. If they can keep that kind of gap going onto the straight, then it's certainly possible. Again, that little bit of a weave to try and break the slipstream. King going defensive to the inside wall. Proper slippery snake tactics. It looks like Tetsu has broken a bit early, trying to just not miss his braking zone. That's allowing Carbon to catch up massively, though. Carbon has now turned it into a 3-car battle. Meanwhile, I've just noticed something. If indeed Ayrton Spencer has actually caught up to the back of Wybear, so that is also something that I need to monitor. But at the moment, it is these guys currently at the top of proceedings, so we'll focus on them. When there is an overtake, I'll be sure to check. Making their way down to the bottom of the circuit. And pretty much just nose to tail at the moment. If anything, Carbon has just about dropped out of slipstream range again. We have also known that King of Torque does tend to be quite heavy on their tyres compared to some. Indeed, you can see the difference there between the two Mercedes drivers. So King indeed pushing the tyres a lot harder, and that is the car of NS Rhino up ahead that they're going to have to deal with. Meanwhile, we've just got notified of the overtake. What happened here? So it was Wybear just running a bit wide, trying to defend the inside line. Little smidge of contact, and somehow around the outside, which changed to the inside. That was very, very questionable move, actually. Very forceful on Ayrton Spencer's part. Wybear lucky to not pick up damage, and Tetsu is actually going into the pit, so hoping for an undercut of sorts. Unless they picked up damage. No, they did not. It was a regular scheduled pit stop. So, Checker Flag Motorsports trying to get the undercut and put their car ahead of King of Torque. Houdini also coming into the pits. And that allows Ayrton Spencer up to 4th, at least for now. And exiting the pits now is Houdini again. The pit stop things seem to be a little bit glitchy in terms of when you're using replay functions around them. More so than normal. so I do apologise for that. So after the pit stop, it is King of Torque who still leads with Carbon promoted up to second, and King is just disappearing up the road now. They don't have Tetsu pressuring them. Tetsu third with a lot of clear air actually. No doubt the fresh rubber will be helping, although it will take a little while for the tyres to get up to temperature. King is making their way up towards the final corner, and they choose to stay out. Because we aren't close to the halfway mark just yet. It is an approximately 1 hour long race. King starting to perhaps the fluctuating gap is soundly fluctuating, as Weiber actually went personal best in that sector. What's this? Houdini must have been passed by Ayrton Senna, or at least those two are very close on track. Indeed, you can see the kind of action that's been going on between them. Extremely close racing between the two mid-engined machines, as there's a spin, as that is Weiber actually. So Weiber has just had a spin. It looked like he was just exiting the chicane. They might have just hit a curb a bit wrong. Again, the Ferrari can be a little bit curb sensitive at times. Oh no, they just run wide and onto the grass, and it spins the car around. That is certainly not what you want to see. So Ayrton Senna, you can see how bad and bruised their car is, but they've fought their way up. Dynamic Carbon again starting to drop back from King even further. And you gotta think that Tetsu's strategy might be the one to go for, the undercut. You can see the curb that the BMW can take. It's always been a car that is not shy to go over curbs, at least from my experience driving it in the past. There you see the gap between the top two. About 3 seconds as they come across the line. Again, Tetsu still in clear air, although there is a little bit of traffic up ahead. That might be NS Rhino. I'm not 100% sure yet. Need to get them in a camera shot. It is indeed NS Rhino in the Foxcatcher Racing bright white McLaren. So blue flags being waved by the marshals, of course. Current personal best actually by Tetsu on that lap, or that sector rather. So the tyres have started to warm up, and they are closing the gap down to Carbon slightly. I think we've started to enter the stage of the race where things are starting to settle down into a rhythm. So Tetsu will have to deal with Rhino very much shortly. They're going to go on board with Tetsu as they make their way through. Here you can see Rhino seems to just be really struggling with the McLaren. You can see it's extremely twitchy. It doesn't know whether it wants to oversteer or understeer when it gets to the apex. Tetsu will be trying to use the slipstream. This isn't for position, and it did look like they went a little bit defensive, but nevertheless Rhino did actually let Tetsu go in the end of things. Got back into the clear air. The gap went up to 17.5 seconds, so might have cost him a little bit of time on that undercut strategy. King of Torque still leading this race, still extending the gap to Carbon. Current fastest lap of the race was set by them, it was a 1:54.512. Quick tyre wear update. There you can see it is starting to set in a little bit. It won't be affecting pace too much. And actually Dynamic Carbon seems to be having the exact same tyre wear, so perhaps we've noticed a trait then, because we know due to driving styles that King does tend to be the more aggressive on his tyres. Either Carbon has developed the same trait, or the BMW M6 is just not as kind to its tyres as the Mercedes. So the Dynamic Esports car currently second. The gap 4.8 seconds, so again extending a bit. Coming up to the chicane where Carbon should gain. Oh, that was a massive cut. That one might have to be checked by the stewards. I'm gonna quickly go for an onboard of that. So this is Dynamic Carbon. It does seem like they might have turned in a smidge too early. Oh, no, that was actually fine. It was just the camera angle that was throwing me off. Tetsu's still trying to make gains. You can just about see the glowing red brake discs if you look through those. Bright magenta, I want to say, wheels, the rims. It's a very, very bright and eye-catching car. Of course, inspired by the Good Smile Racing team of Japan, who actually started with some international affairs as well. I believe they've been competing in the Spa 24 Hours for quite some time. So nice to see Checkered Flag Motorsports bringing a splash of colour to the grid. Carbon's still just trying to chase down their teammate. Let's go to Ed Spanner. There's someone different. The Welshman currently, last lap was a 56.0, and they're 34 seconds back. They've managed to get a gap of 7.3 seconds and extending to Houdini. So Houdini's really starting to drop off the pace as the tyres are dropping off as well, although it looks like they have made a pit stop recently enough. It just looked like they might have clipped the grass a little bit, or the gravel on exit. Nope, it was a trick of the camera yet again. Dynamic Carbon has decided now is the time to come into the pits. This is the standardized pit window, and you can actually see the gap between them and Tetsu is massive now, so the undercut has certainly worked in Tetsu's favour. The gap, as it just about stabilizes at 3.8 seconds. With that kind of advantage, you got to think, will King be able to stay out much longer before the undercut catches up with him as well? Of course, he will just be trying to stay out as long as he can while avoiding that on these tyres, simply because then he'll have fresher tyres towards the end of the race to challenge. Meanwhile, Wybear has unfortunately left the race. That might be due to a disconnection, which is unfortunate. If that is indeed the case, he might come on stream in the chat to say so. But either way, unfortunate times for the Indonesian, who does make such an effort to compete in these European time zones. Of course, I can't remember exactly. It's going to be some kind of daft o'clock time, like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. King of Talk does finally decide to respond to the undercut of Tetsu. Perhaps also responding to Carbon a little bit, although Carbon behind. So where will this actually put them out in relation to Tetsu? Where is Tetsu? They're coming around the final corner. There you also see Carbon in the background, and it looks like that there is the car of King of Talk. So King is very much securely ahead. So good strategy call. And the gap is around 2.8 seconds approximately. Tetsu running a bit wide. Again, generally the track limit at the exit of turn 4 has been quite lenient, but I'm not 100% sure whether that is the case here as well. I believe according to the lobby settings the penalties should be on, so if anything dodgy does happen, the game should auto-correct it. As there's a massive slide from King of Talk. Slide McGee strikes again. Perhaps just trying to warm up the tyres. They will be very, very cold. As, what's this? What on earth has happened to Tetsu? Tetsu's dropping down like a rock. What's this? Did they pick up damage? No, they just paused. So they just went into the pause menu or something, and now they've just dropped down the order. I don't know if they're typing, but mid-race? This is extremely unfortunate stuff from Tetsu. They were looking like they might have been able to challenge for the win. Might be just some kind of in real life thing, and of course the AI is extremely slow through the chicane, so they're losing so much time. No, we don't actually know how long this will last for. It's extremely unfortunate to see. They're already dropped down to third. Don't know what on earth is happening to Tetsu out there. It might be a disconnect to controller actually, Sailor mentioned in the chat. Although extremely unfortunate if it was, and I would think a disconnected controller might be able to be resolved by this point. Meanwhile, your driver Ayrton Spencer is coming into the pits. So they're making their pit stop that should take them to the end of the race. Here you see your pit crew at work. Just a smidge of refueling and off they go. They rejoin in 5th. Oh, and we're actually hearing that Tetsu has had to retire from the race, so that's absolutely tragic to hear. But that is what has happened. So F's in chat for Tetsu Kobura. What a fine display they were performing up to that point, but it just wasn't to be. Extremely unfortunate stuff for the American. And now, when we started with 8 runners, we are now down to 5. And that actually does put Houdini Myers on the podium, and they're being chased down by NS Rhino, it would seem, or the overtake did just happen. I'll quickly check. Well, it was just a blue flag, and in fact Rhino did just clip the gravel and just got out of the way, so fair play to Rhino for that one. Again, showing very much John Wandering characteristics in terms of sportsmanship regarding just getting out of the way of people. So this race has certainly seen a lot of casualties, but we are still going nonetheless. I am yet to be one of those casualties, so unfortunately you're gonna have to put up with my boring voice for the rest of this stream. Haha. So then, King of Torque, still race leader, this time by 10 seconds. They're purple through Sector 2. What is this lap going to be actually? This could be very impressive. If the fastest lap at the moment set by them was a 154.512, this could certainly be up there with their qualifying pace. Of course, the car is going to be very low on fuel, and they do have very fresh tyres. They're purple again in Sector 3. It's going to be an absolutely ballistic time by the King of Torque. Just making their way through the chicane. Again, that seems to be the one weak spot, is that chicane. Besides that, take a nice amount of curve on exit. What's it going to be? It's a 154.472. It is a new fastest lap of this race. And I'm starting to think that I'm not sure if anyone will have an answer to this kind of pace. Especially now that Tetsu has had to go. The gap, 12.7 seconds. Dynamic Carbon, they are currently second, so it's been a relatively consistent drive by them so far, has to be said. They've been there or thereabouts, but have managed to just stick with it, and they've found themselves in a very, very high position due to it. Hello to Nils in the chat. Of course, unfortunate that you couldn't make it to the race today. We've had plenty of DNFs, but through all of it, your substitute Houdini has actually managed to get onto the podium at this stage of the race. They're being chased down by Ayrton Spencer. So the last step of the podium is certainly still up for grabs. Going to be an intense one indeed. We're going to quickly check fastest laps of these guys recently, or the last lap. There's a 156.6. It was a 154.7 as the last lap for Ayrton Spencer. So Ayrton Spencer is catching at an alarming rate on Houdini. That is certainly a gap that we're going to have to monitor, and that is going to close up quite rapidly. We'll more than likely catch him before the end of the race, flashing the lights to the cameras. And personal best through Sector 2 as well. Well, here we see Rhino again just really struggling to get to grips with the McLaren again. It seemed to be the case throughout today, which has been really unfortunate, and just running into the gravel there. The gravel doing its job, slowing the car right down to a halt. It was lucky they didn't get beached through there. Just seemed to carry momentum as there's a spin. I don't know who it is. It's Houdini, and that might actually allow Ayrton Spencer to go through. What happened? Was it the same as Wybet? Oh, very nearly just did a CJ almost. Just clipped the grass. Was sent spinning. That might have flat spotted the tyres somewhat. Certainly cooked them. And now the gap between Ayrton Spencer and Houdini Myers is 1.3 seconds. So as soon as I talk about the gap closing up, it has closed up rapidly. And that Ferrari is certainly looking under threat. That Audi is looking so potent at the moment on the fresher rubber. going on board with Ayrton Senna now, the Welshman. Last lap was a 1 minute 55.095. And they are just closing up within the slipstream range now. They've certainly managed to get the setup right on that Audi. Houdini with a little bit of cheeky weaving, trying to break the slipstream. You could tell that wasn't a weave as a defensive block though, due to the gap. And just acknowledging the presence. The dirty air isn't going to be helping Ayrton Senna through here. You might have heard that they did lift off a slight bit. They're looking to go to the outside line.com, and that cuts to the inside, which will be the outside to the next corner. Just trying to find his way through. Houdini certainly struggling on the rubber. Ayrton Senna trying to look around the outside of the King. Can't quite get it, and the cutback there. Houdini nearly runs off the road from the understeer, and the fake! The fake! And he's gone down the inside! And he can't quite get it to work. But this is fantastic duel, it has to be said, between both of these drivers at the moment. Again, Ayrton Senna with the superior grip from the fresh rubber, just about managing to take a tighter line. The slipstream is broken. Houdini taking the defensive run. And now look, Ayrton Senna trying to outbrake him around the outside, trying to go for a cutback as well. He's trying absolutely everything to try and get past. He's going to try around the outside of the Mercedes arena. Looks like the Ferrari might just hang on. It's a case of how late do they brake. The Ferrari does indeed just about manage to keep the position. But you can really tell that Houdini is fighting tooth and nail at the moment, just hanging on by a thread. He's not going to be able to keep this up for 10 more laps in this one, is he? I mean, if he is, then fair play to him, but it's just looking like the tyre advantage is too strong, and Senna sends it around the outside and cuts back magnificently, going up towards the Schumacher S. Has to slot in behind, there's only really one line through there. Again, Houdini having to defend the inside. Ayrton Senna looking for a cutback, they get a fantastic exit. Looks like the Ferrari's just about there. No, they managed to hang it around the outside and they get the move done. Fantastic driving by Ayrton Senna. Get that position back. We're going to go to a quick replay, just see how they managed to hang it around the outside there. Great move. But look, Houdini starting to come back. They managed to outbrake him into the chicane and they've got the position back. So it's certainly not over. Houdini is somehow managing to hang on. Coming up to a straight. You gotta think the slipstream might be too much. Houdini might have to go defensive again. That might just line them up for a cutback though. Indeed, Ayrton Senna is looking for the outside. They're gonna try and position their car as best as they can. Just about leaving enough space for a car, and Ayrton Senna retakes third position. That Ferrari is sticking with him though. It's just about got his nose down the inside but couldn't quite hold it. As they both go extremely wide, especially Houdini. Houdini all over the grass on the exit of turn 4. Just trying to hold on. I think it is checkmate though at this stage. Meanwhile, Rhino has just gone into the pits. So I believe Rhino might have actually picked up damage from something. Nevertheless, they are heading back out, and that was an absolutely almighty scrap for the last place on the podium between both of these guys. They might have a bit of a chat after the race, if you know what I'm talking about, regarding it being a little bit questionable at times, but from here it was certainly an exciting display from both of them. And indeed, Houdini's actually picked up a 0.5 second penalty for pushing too much. He is pushing too much now. He's running into the gravel. So that is proof that we do actually have the penalty system running on. He slows down now, and that's certainly going to put him out of the fight for third. You can really see the tyre wear on the Ferrari. It's a stock setup that Houdini's opted to run due to not really finding the setup they previously had that useful. So he just decided to run stock, and the tyre wear is certainly coming back to bite him. Fantastic noise that the Ferrari makes, though, it has to be said. Now that action seems to have cooled off a little bit, we're going back to status quo. Race leader King of Torque has managed to get a 28-second lead. I have no words. This might be one of the drives of his career, to be fair to him. This is immense stuff from King of Torque at this stage. Not really had to fight with anyone after he managed to get up to first, that is. Of course, he did start the back of the road because of that qualifying infringement. And I believe that is, I might be wrong, I think that's Wybear in the chat. Or someone else, someone who got disconnected during the race. So my only guess is that it is Wybear. So unfortunate to see what happened, but nevertheless, you can only look forward from that point on. King of Torque is getting so close to having a 30-second lead here. This is absolutely insane. Dynamic Carbon still... Oh! Massive kick of oversteer on exit. Let's see that one again. He was just going through the hairpin. Just clipped the grass on the inside and then just got on the power a little bit too early. Car certainly didn't like that. But still, Carbon just hanging on in second at the moment. It's purple that time, or purple sector rather, in sector 1 for Ayrton Spanner. It's green in sector 2. Interesting to see that the Audi seems to be stronger than the Mercedes in the Mercedes arena. At least this one does seem to be. Still green in sector 3 then. They're making their way up to the chicane. The race certainly seems to have settled down a bit. Only 5 runners left, of course. That's a nice, healthy amount of curb on exit by Ayrton Spanner, I have to say. That was just right, as Goldilocks once said. So, fair play to them for that. That is indeed a new personal best lap for Ayrton Spanner. That's a 154.6. That would have absolutely crushed it in qualifying. Of course, they are running lower fuel. They can actually see. Oh, massive stab on the throttle as they went past the camera. You're asking what lap times are Carbon and Spanner doing? So, last lap was a 154.6, as we just said, from them, and Carbon's last lap was a 158.6. So it's certainly a massive gap in terms of pace, and Spanner certainly has the pace over Carbon. But you've got to keep into account there is a 37-second gap, and there's only, what, 6 laps left to go in this race? So it's looking really unlikely, unless Carbon has some kind of mechanical issue or some kind of incident, that anything will be happening. Blue flags coming up. That will be NS Rhino of Foxcatcher Racing, who will be getting out of the way of Dynamic Carbon. Again, haven't really seen much of Rhino in this one. They did start on the second to last row of the grid. It looks like they've just gone out of camera shot on the outside tarmac, just to stay out of their way. Car 16 was actually looking quite strong on lap 1, at the early stage of lap 1, but did fall away. The last lap was a 2 minute point, or 2 minute 3.0. So again, just really trying to find the grips from the McLaren. Fresh rubber and half fuel. I'm surprised they're at half fuel actually. They might have took a fair bit more than they needed to at the pit stop. Perhaps they were just playing it safe. Houdini, they've dropped back 17 seconds from Ant and Spanner since that fantastic duel that they both have had. Certainly I would say the highlight of the race was that little scram. That was one of the best we've seen all season so far. They're still charging around. Will be more than likely picking up points for 4th for Scooter and Nuke Shunny. We're here having to be very, very modular on the throttle. Bringing that Martini sponsorship to the team. That isn't official Martini sponsorship, but still has had an affiliation with them for quite some time. And Spanner, they're about to come up across the line. So everyone is pretty much on an island at this point. I'm wondering where about everyone is. So King of Torque is heading up towards, is in the last sector on lap 28. So as we mentioned, the race is coming to a climax. It isn't looking like we're going to see that many position changes from now onwards, so it is a case of just running down the lap times, staying consistent and bringing the cars home. It has certainly been an interesting race, this one. I've seen a fair bit of battles, a little bit of strategy play out with Tetsu's undercut that seemed to work on Carbon, but couldn't quite catch King. And then of course the amount of disconnects and DNFs that we've seen, unfortunate to see. One incident that might be investigated post-race is the one involving Felix leaving, the one with Wybear. It did look perhaps a smidge questionable on his part to be sending it there, but we don't know. Of course, things will obviously be checked up by the stewards on the replay footage, so it's not like these things won't be addressed. I'm going to quickly go to the live timing here, so you can see, judging by the lines, everyone is pretty much on their own separate part of the circuit. there you can also see the best lap times that they've set so far. So, Ayrton Spener's best lap, very, very close to King of Torque's, only a matter of hundredths between them, only 400ths of a second separating those two. So, very good pace by Ayrton Spener, despite not quite being up there battling with King. I think that would be a relatively solid job by the substitute. Also, I just noticed something. My phone hasn't decided to randomly pause the stream during this whole stream, so that's been something positive looking back on. The laps are continuing to tumble down, riding our way through them. It is still King of Torque, race leader. Of course, this will be a fantastic result for not only King of Torque, who of course might actually be the most successful driver in DRL history by this point. I can't really say for certain, but when you think of race winners in this series, you gotta think of King of Torque. He's certainly proven throughout the seasons that he is a force to be reckoned with, and once again he has proven that here today. But yeah, not only will it be a fantastic win for King of Torque, but also a comeback story from, of course, the qualifying thing, but also the team behind them. Of course, recently signing them, Grip Runners Motorsport. Quick cut on that, because we've just seen, and that was Ayrton Spener hitting the inside wall. Don't tell me they did what they did again. What I'm thinking is they might have hit the inside barrier again in order to get to that situation. That's the second time they've done it. Had they just thrown away a third place? Houdini's already there. I think they might have done, indeed, in the final few stages of the race, Ayrton Spener has just thrown away a podium result. Shows that I've got to stay observant to catch all this stuff. As I was going on about King of Torque, so that's extremely unfortunate stuff for Ayrton Spener, making the same mistake twice. There are Fs in the chat. You know what? I'm submitting an F in the chat myself. And now that very much battered and bruised car will more than likely just be taking home fourth at best with this one, with Houdini promoted up to third and just sticking with it. I think with the new rubber, actually, Ayrton Spener might be trying to go for fastest lap, as well as possibly just trying to catch back up to Houdini with an absolute max attack push. Houdini just needs to stay consistent, but look at their tyre wear. It is absolutely chronic out there for the Portuguese driver. Second to last lap for King of Torque. The gap is certainly closing down between Houdini and Ayrton Spener. So again, it's going to be close between them as we go into the dying stages. 2 laps to go for Houdini as he crosses the line. There you see Ayrton Spener in the background. The gap, 7.4 seconds. There you also see in the background, that is King of Torque, who is about to go on to the final lap of the race. So of course, as I was talking before what happened, King of Torque will be extremely happy with this result, but also Grip Runners Motorsport will be extremely happy as well, considering that I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it might be their first Gran Turismo Sport League race win. Might have to get clarification with that, but it's certainly an achievement nonetheless, and it just proves that King of Torque wasn't just riding the highs of being with the series organizer team of Dynamic Esports. He can certainly pack a punch no matter where he seems to be at, and it certainly has proven to be the case. With this one, just a little bit of a slide on exit. Watching here, Houdini making their way up. Oh, a little bit slidey again. They will have a bit of traffic up ahead. I think that is, it is indeed NS Rhino. There you can see he's getting blue flags, so he should be getting out of the way. Oh, it seemed like a cut. It might not have been, of course, the camera has tricked me before. Rhino is indeed just going to stay out of the way, goes into the pit lane in fact. So the duel between Houdini and Spanner continues. It's down to 4 seconds and there's a lap to go. It's a purple lap time from Ayrton Spanner, 154.400, and it is going to be King of Torque who takes the race win here at Nürburgring for round 3 of DRL GT. Congratulations to them. NS Rhino comes across the line, exiting the pits for 5th. Congratulations to King of Torque on that amazing drive. Carbon is about to be coming up to the chicane leading up to the finish line, but we still have a battle for the last step of the podium on our hands. The gap 2.4 seconds. Houdini just needs to keep his composure. Dynamic Carbon comes across the line to take 2nd place here today. Might have hoped for a bit more than that, might have hoped for the win, but with a 40-second gap to King, I think it's fair to say that there's nothing really he could do about that kind of pace. Making the way up through the Schumacher S now is the battle for 3rd. 1.6 seconds is the gap. What was Houdini's last lap? It was a 158.0. Compare that to the 154.4 that Ayrton Spanner set. Look at how close they're going to be. This is coming right down to the wire again. Houdini's tires are going to be absolutely shot. Just braking for the chicane. The Ferrari has been unsettled by curbs in the past. Will Houdini be able to hold on? Ayrton Spanner sends it down the inside, and it's going to be Ayrton Spanner who takes 3rd place and the final step on the podium. What a drive! What a comeback! That was an absolutely epic move there. The last corner, and he manages to get it done. Congratulations to Ayrton Spanner on that. That was certainly an impressive move towards the end. Houdini just couldn't hold on those tyres. It is somewhat to be expected though, because of the rubber being absolutely dead. Here are your race results then. Of course, King of Torque for Grip Runners Motorsport Mercedes will be at the top step of the podium. Dynamic Carbon will be 2nd. Ayrton Spanner 3rd in the closing stage, the last corner of the last lap, and they managed to get it done. Neither of them technically crossed the line due to the timer running out, but the overtake was made, and it did look certain that it was going to be that way. Houdini would have to settle for 4th, but a very much valiant display from the Portuguese driver. That was an absolutely fine battle that they had with Ayrton Spanner throughout the middle portion of the race. NS Rhino for Foxcatcher will be picking up points for them by finishing, although 3 laps down, still picking up the points for the team, and that could certainly be crucial going forward in the championship. We're only at round 3. Of course, we did have DNFs in the form of Felix, who was the first to go, then Ybear, and then Tetsu, so unfortunate to see those. Fastest lap was indeed Ayrton Spanner in the closing stages, second to last lap, 154.400, absolutely insane pace. That was certainly something. I'm going to be getting an interview with King of Talk shortly. I'll be trying to at least leave your thoughts in the comments, actually, in the chat as well. What did you think to that fantastic race? How fantastic was it to you? Certainly made for some exciting action in the closing stages. Once again, I cannot find King of Talk on my friends list. Why does it say he's offline for the last 4 hours? I have no idea. We'll be getting him in shortly. It does seem like a bit of a regular feature getting him in for these. Ah, yes, hello, King of Talk. Race winner, congratulations. How does it feel?
Good. Good to be winning with a different team. As much as I enjoyed Dynamic, you know, I want to stretch my legs a little bit, and I'm quite happy that I managed to win by such a big margin.
Yeah, I know. 40 seconds in the end. Did you actually think that it would be possible to do that, considering, of course, in qualifying you did have the wrong BOP by 1%, so your time, your pole time was taken away and you had to start the back. You've managed to fight your way up. So your thoughts on that, I suppose?
I thought it would be possible to get onto the podium again. I didn't expect the win because obviously Tetsu and Carbon, they had pretty quick laps. So I was thinking maybe if I cut my way through the field I might be able to fight for the podium, but yeah, I just had mega pace. I managed to do 54 fours for like 10 laps in a row, so I don't know where it came from, but I had mega pace. And unfortunately Tetsu, I think he disconnected or something.
Yeah, he had to leave,
like
yes.
That. Yeah, so that's unfortunate, but I don't think, in all honesty, I don't think he would have had the pace, if you know what I mean.
He did indeed come out behind you after you made your pit stop, after he made the undercut, so yeah, it is unlikely.
Yeah, and, you know, managing to pull a 40-second gap on Carbon, considering he's my ex-teammate, I'm pretty happy with that.
The rivalry is still there then, that's always good to see, healthy competition. Of course, you mentioned this is your first win for Grip Runners Motorsport. I believe it's their first actual GT Sport League race win, so congratulations on that, and I'm sure that you've made a certain Bandito very proud here today.
Well, I hope so, yeah, that was kind of the idea of me joining this team, you know, get it back to glory, or, you know. But yeah, really happy with the win. Carbon saying he's let off. Debatable.
Of course.
But yeah, it was very happy to be winning, especially for Bandit as well, you know. Gotta put on the good show, and coming from the back, you know. Got the good sponsors on the TV.
Yep, absolutely. The proper Max Verstappen drive right there. So, of course, fantastic result there. Of course, where are we heading next on the calendar? I need to quickly check that. We are heading for Catalonia. So,
oh, there we go then.
A track that I believe you've had a bit of history with, not one of your strongest, if I recall. What's your game plan for that?
You know, just push. Get a clean start and hopefully push to the win. Depends on when it is, though.
Oh, true. It's in a week's time.
Yeah, okay, so quali won't be something that I'll be aiming for, because obviously I'll be a bit late. But yeah, hopefully I can put on a good show again. Of
course, it's always fantastic to speak with you again in these interviews. It always seems to be that it's mainly you that we have on the channel with the interviews because you always keep winning stuff. Like, any plans on stopping?
I can't help it, you know.
But you can't help it. Oh, well.
I got very unlucky in the last race, though, so this is sort of redemption. On the last race, my cat turned my PS4 off.
Oh right, that was Interlagos.
So that was a bit shit. So yeah, glad to get the redemption.
Absolutely. Again, apologies for language, of course, on stream, but that, I'm sure Carbon's alright.
Sorry.
That it's fine. It's just me being professional and all that.
Get the demonetization out.
Like we're monetized anyway. But of course, again, a shame that I couldn't be around for the Interlagos race, but congratulations on this win. You've certainly put yourself in the fight again and have shown that even after the team switch, you are still as competitive as a competitor as ever. So, best of luck going forward. Enjoy your champagne and all that other good stuff.
Thank you very much. I'll see you soon.
That was certainly something, wasn't it? So, of course, thank you for all of our amazing viewers who have been tuning in for this one. It has been an absolute pleasure to be back in the commentary booth, doing my commentary job, which I'm still not paid for. Carbon. Of course, tune in a week's time on July 20th for the race at Catalonia, round 4 of the DRL GT Championship. It is certainly going to be an interesting one now that we have a variety of cars, and of course, being a circuit that has been used for testing Formula 1 in for such a long time now, it's going to be interesting to see how the cars fare up on such a balanced circuit. But until then, I have been your commentator, Enes Zokio, and I have butchered the outro even. I've butchered it completely. Fantastic. But this has been Dynamic Racing Leagues, of course, not part of the Radio Show Limited network of channels. We hope to see you next time out in Spain. Until then, see you later, folks.